start on this computer. Okay, so as you guys know, we've been doing this awesome series with a bunch of leaders on our team that are up and coming and that are higher up, and they've just been able to share some awesome stories, and we've got tons of them coming. Okay, so I've got a whole schedule listed out on who's on every single week. This week, we were supposed to have one person, but she is sick. And so I decided that instead of canceling it, because you guys know me, I'm not going to cancel our weekly Zoom call just because of that. I decided to take over, and I was going to hop on here and share my story, my personal tips for you guys, and the best books that I think are just going to change your life forever. So hope that that's okay, that I kind of take over this Zoom call. Give me some hearts in the chat if that's okay, if I just share everything with you guys. I'm going to spill my heart out. You're going to really learn the in-depth of my story. And then we'll go from there. Okay, awesome. Thank you. Thank you for giving me that opportunity. Okay. All right. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to get started with my story personally. A lot of you guys have heard this. Some of you have not heard it, and some of you haven't heard it as in depth as I'm going to share it with you guys. I share my story on my social media pretty much every single day, whether it be on my lives, on posting, on updating my story. Highly recommend you do that, because your story is what's going to change other people's lives. People need to get to like you, know you, and trust you. And the only way for them to do that is for them to hear your story every single day. So get used to practicing that and learning how to do it. And there's tons of different other Zoom calls that are on that kind of share with you exactly how to do that. We're not going to get into that tonight, but here we go. So if you don't know who I am, my name's Chelsea Noella. I'm a mom of two from Western Maine. I'm going to be 30 years old this year. And it's really crazy because I actually started this business back, I would say almost 6 years ago. It'll be 6 years in November. But before I started this business, I actually was working two jobs in the medical field. I was working at a nursing home. And then I was also working at an individual care facility with people who were living with developmental disabilities. I love taking care of other people. That's always been my nature. That's always been who I've been. And so naturally, when I grew up, that was like the go-to job for me, was to get into a field where I was taking care of other people, because that was always in my nature. That was literally who I was, that's who I was raised to be. And so I started working in the medical field right out of high school. And then I had worked it for about 7 years, and I got pregnant in this time. I got into a relationship, a serious relationship at the time. And I started feeling like I started getting into this cycle after we had my daughter Bailey. Matt and I, Matt's my fiance, but we were living in an apartment in the city, and we were living less than paycheck to paycheck. I got to this point where I couldn't afford the vehicle that I was driving because I was a new mom. I didn't realize the financial responsibilities that came with that. And so naturally, I ended up having to go through the process of voluntary repo with my truck. And I started racking up credit card bills because they were sending me all the flyers in the mail and all the things. And by the time that I was 23 years old, I had a baby that was 3 years old at the time, and I was over $100,000 in debt because of all of the things coming in the mail, all the credit cards that I had opened up, all of the lines of credit that I had opened, and they just kept on coming and coming and coming. And I felt like I was stuck in this rut where it was like I was taking one bill and I was taking the money from one bill and I was paying another bill with it, and then vice versa. Have you ever been there before? Like, drop a one in the chat if I'm not alone. That's exactly where I was. And it got to this point where something had happened in our life, and I still to this day can't remember exactly what it was, because there were so many things going on at once. Being a new mom, I was super overwhelmed. And I just remember like having to overdraft one of my accounts. And this was like, I felt at the time like it was going to be nothing. Like nothing was going to happen. And it was like, okay, well, I'll just make sure that I pay it the next time that I get paid. My paychecks were pretty big. I was working two jobs, 70 hours a week. But it just wasn't enough based on between my bills and having a baby and all the things. And so I got to this point where I overdrafted my account, and I wasn't able to pay it back this next time. And then something else went wrong where I had to pay for something else. And then all of a sudden I was overdrafting a second account. So before I started this business, I was too 2 bank accounts in the negative $500. And so this girl on my Facebook came on and she kept sending me these messages about working from home, working from home, working from home. And I kept ignoring her. I kept telling her constantly, I can't do this. There's no way. I don't have time. I don't have the money to get started. I don't have the energy. I feel like I'm broken. I'm not smart enough for this. I'm not as pretty as you are, so I can't take pictures like you do. I'm not as coordinated with social media like you are. And I just continued to say these excuses again and again and again. And these things were just embedded in my head that I just was not good enough, right? And so eventually, about a year after I started watching her, she had followed up with me more than 50 times. And my life was kind of just becoming a big mess. And my fiance was threatening to leave me because I was working 2 jobs. We had no time together. We were struggling financially. And one of the biggest reasons why people split up, especially in marriage, is financial burden, right? And so that was the biggest burden for us. We felt like if we just split up, maybe things would change. Maybe things would be different, right? So it got to this point where he started a custody case and everything. And I thought to myself, I don't want this to be my life. My parents brought me through a custody battle when I was a kid. They split up in a nasty, nasty divorce, and I was following a generational cycle. And I didn't want that for my child. I didn't want her to be in the system. I did not want her to be playing tug of war with both parents. I did not want her to have to go through the emotional trauma that I went through as a kid. I didn't want to have her go through the anxiety and the worry and the panic and all the things that I had gone through. And so I made a quick decision, not knowing what I was doing. I messaged this girl that was working from home, doing exactly what we do right now. And I said, I have no idea what you're doing, but I need to do something like yesterday. Okay. So then she ended up messaging me back and she said, yeah, I can get you started. She told me exactly how much it was. And once again, I froze. The next day she messaged me to follow up with me again. Okay. And this is over 50 times she followed up with me. And I thank the good Lord that she did, because she changed my life forever, because I finally took the plunge, because I did not want to lose my child. I didn't want to lose my house. We had just got the foreclosure notice on our house, and I put aside a bill and I actually sold my laptop in order to get started. And I just did whatever it took. I got started. Within the first 3 to 4-ish months of my business, I didn't do anything. I sat. I was what they call a squatter, right? I sat there in my business. I did absolutely nothing. I watched everybody, and I was fully aware that there were things going on around me. I just didn't understand how I could personally do it. And I didn't understand how this would fit into, like, how I would fit this into my life personally. Meanwhile, my upline decided that she was going to stop talking to me 2 months in. So because I stopped talking, she stopped talking to me. And then I just felt like, okay, well, how am I supposed to make this happen? About 5 months in, I hopped on a Zoom call just randomly, just like this. And I had this girl that was on this screen sharing her story just like this. She shared her story and how she came from a very broken home, and she came from a home with a lot of trauma, a lot of abuse, neglect, all the things. And immediately I could connect to it. I could relate to it. And so what I did was I started picking my business up, and I started figuring it out by watching YouTube channels, like YouTube videos of top leaders. And I watched at least one every single day. And I watched it in the pockets of my day while I was working my 2 jobs. I would watch it while I was, on my lunch break. If I got a lunch break, honestly, because medical field is kind of wish-washy, but I would watch it on my lunch break. I would watch it on the way to work. I would watch it on the way home, or listen to it on the way home. I would listen to it while I was laying in bed at night. I would literally do my research, and I was listening to these YouTube videos again and again and again. And through those YouTube videos, I learned how to work this business consistently. So I took exactly what I was taught in those YouTube videos from these top leaders who had thankfully made these videos to help me, right? And I just started applying them every single day. I started showing up in a way that I've never shown up before. I took quitting off the table for the very first time in my life. Okay. Think about my generational cycle. My generational cycle was to quit, right? That's what people expected of me because of the background that I came from. But I decided to keep going for some reason. I decided to keep going. And I showed up every single day. And within the first 7 months, I went Ruby. But the amount of bonuses that I was making back then, our bonuses were a little bit smaller. However, I was making enough bonuses to cover over $4,000 in bills. Okay. And so it was really, really crazy how fast things pick up when you pick up. So I started doing that. And so within the first 7 months, I went Ruby. I was able to give my 2 weeks at one of my jobs. And then I ended up earning bonuses the very next month after I went Ruby again. And I said, okay, well, I guess I could quit both of those jobs, right? Back then, I didn't realize that bonuses were not permanent. They were not things that were going to come in consistently all the time. So I had no idea. I kind of jumped ship early. But about 6 months after that, I went Emerald. Did I try and fail a lot? Yes, I did. I went for it, failed, went for it, failed, went for it, got back up and failed, went and got up for it again. And I failed again. And I failed again. I failed again, all the way until I hit Emerald. 6 months after that, I hit Diamond, and I promoted my account to Diamond right after conference. And then a year after that, I promoted to Diamond on my 2.0 account. And so it's been quite the journey. It's been a journey of trial and error, fails, falling, getting up, falling again, getting up, falling again. There's been a lot of trial and error. There's been a lot of people who have come and gone in my business. I remember a part of me when, or a part of my business when I first started and I got my Diamond, how excited I was to get my Diamond. And I didn't realize that if I didn't stay consistent, then I could easily fall, right? And so I stopped working my business about 3 months after I hit Diamond. And my whole entire team crumbled like a deck of cards. And then I decided that I needed to get back up. And at the time, there was a big bonus that was attached to a re-rank. And so I focused and I kept my eye on that prize of that re-rank bonus and how much my paycheck would be if I just helped other people get higher up in the ranks. So we focused again. And that was the year that we ended up promoting my account back to Diamond and then promoting my fiance's account to Diamond. And that has changed everything for us. With this business, I've been in for, I would say, like I said, about 6 years. It'll be 6 years in November. And I've changed my life forever. I went from working 2 jobs in the medical field, and now I'm able to be a full-time stay-at-home mom. We brought my fiance home from the garage. He's been home ever since. I paid off a ton of credit card debt. With this business, I built an entire addition on my house that had 3 rooms, and we're about to put a brand new deck on the back. And this business is paid in cash for that. I no longer have to rely on my parents to pay for part of my bills. I no longer have to rely on, my family to help us out with gas and groceries. I no longer have to worry about, getting state assistance and worry about, whether I was going to get benefits one month or not. And I'm just so thankful for this business for being able to allow me to do that. And so that's kind of a little bit about my story. And that's kind of sharing the vision for you of if you are feeling like you're broken or like you come from a background where you maybe started out with absolutely nothing, or you started out feeling like you didn't have enough time, you didn't have enough money. I promise you, I am literally the definition of that. And if I can do it, then anybody can do it, right? So I want to share that with you guys. If you have any questions about my story, absolutely put in the chat. If you can relate to me in any way, I would love to hear about them in the chat. Okay. So I want to share these things with you guys. I think that you're going to benefit from the next part a lot. These are some things in the last 6 years that I have learned along the way. And I know that on this Zoom call, we've been sharing a lot about our best tips and our best learnings from this business. And I've been asking everybody to share one, but I've got 5 for you because I want to make sure that when you leave this Zoom call tonight, that you've got some really good nuggets that you can take back to your business and you can say, okay, if Chelsea can, I can too, right? So number 1, you're going to want to get out your pen and your piece of paper so you can write these down. You guys know I love checklists. I love when you write down those notes. So number one, checklist and consistency is everything. Jim Rohn is really big on checklists, and he's someone that I listen to quite frequently. He talks about if you're not tracking what you're doing, then what are you doing, right? How are you going to know whether you're making progress or not if you are not tracking it along the way? So every single day I have a checklist that I follow. I actually recently shared this with my team again, where I have my different sections of the day. Now, when I first started this business, they were different because I was working 70 hours a week. I was pulling a second shift into a first shift every single day. Then I was coming home to a 3-year-old. So it was a little bit chaotic at first, but once I kind of got what we call sea legs when we're out fishing, right? At that point, I was able to start saying, okay, well, I can fit this here and I can fit that there and I can fit that there. And then it started to kind of flow throughout my day, and I let my life happen around it. So with my checklist, I start off my day every single morning with my happy birthdays. I go and I wish everybody a happy birthday. And I go send a host to post message to all of my mutual friends with them. Then I go right down the list. I go and I add at least 20 to 30 people on Facebook if Facebook allows me to, because we know how crazy Facebook is right now, right? Facebook's been locking me down since the day I started. So just so you know, if you're locked down or you get locked down, you're not alone. It happens to the best of us. And that just means that you've worked really, really hard. So you should be so proud of yourself for working hard. And we're just going to try to figure out the sweet spots of Facebook, right? If you're on, yeah, it sucks. I agree. And then Instagram is another great platform that you can work. It's very similar to Facebook, but people just get to choose whether they follow you or not, which is, I mean, it's pretty cool in a way. So that's another platform you can work. So that's how I start off. I do my happy birthdays. I do my mutual friends. I add friends, and then I do usually what we call these 10-minute messaging sprees, where we go down our friends list. We start right at the top of our friends list on Facebook. We set our timer for 10 minutes and we just rotate our messages going down our friends list. We use the boards app, and that's how I do mine every single day. So I do that, my happy birthdays, adding, post on Facebook, update my story. And those are the gist of what I do early in the morning. Then I do all my personal development after that. Now, in the middle of the day, I usually have a little bit of time in the middle of the day where my son takes a nap, or I'm able to come inside at this point and I'm able to do stuff. Back then, it would have been on my lunch break, right? On my lunch break, then I'll repeat the cycle again. I'll message, add, post on Facebook, update my story, interact. Okay, super, super simple. And it can be done very, very quickly. Then I go nap time, the holy grail. Yes, it is. So then I go in the evening after dinner, I do the same exact thing. I update my story, I add friends, I do a messaging spree. And then usually I usually post on Facebook at that time also. And then I interact. And then before I go to bed, I do the same exact thing, guys. We're doing the same exact thing again and again and again throughout the day. And if you have that checklist for yourself, even if it's on one notepad on your phone so that you can be mobile with it, or you can write it down, it's totally up to you. You've got to have something that you're tracking. And a lot of the time, something that I do with my new distributors is I get them to have a checklist of how many PLC messages that they send, how many PDT messages that they send, and how many HAT messages that they send. I have them track this, and then whatever they have within for that day, I tell them to double it the next day. Push to double it the next day. Is it going to be uncomfortable? Absolutely it is. But where consistency meets massive action over time equals momentum. You cannot have a thriving business without momentum. So if you are consistent every single day, but you're not taking massive action, you're missing part of the equation to get you to the momentum, right? You've got to have all three of those things in conjunction with each other for your business to actually take off. So it's so important to remember this. And this was something that I learned over the last 6 years that changed everything. I actually learned this within like the first 2 years, how you need to have all three of those things going for you in order for you to make it happen. So that's kind of the consistency and the checklist and how I work that every single day. Now, is there some days where I do more? Absolutely. There are some days where I do more, and I will do more messaging and more adding because those are the most important things, and the follow-ups. So that's number one. Number two, without vision, everything crumbles. This is something that I noticed. And the reason why I noticed this along these last 6 years was because I got to this point where I hit diamond, right? And I told you guys after the like 2 or 3 months after I hit diamond, I just stopped working my business. Do you want to know why I stopped working my business? It was because I didn't know where I was going next. I had this plan to get to diamond, and I felt like when I get to diamond, I'll be in the right place. When I get to diamond, everything will just be great. Wrong. When I got to diamond, I stopped dreaming. I stopped thinking of things that I could truly do. I stopped feeling like I needed to change my life, right? I stopped being hungry for something more than what I had because I already had it. I already had the paycheck. I already had the money rolling in. I already had the business that brought myself home. I already had all the things. So in order to get to the next level, I had to start dreaming bigger. And my next dream after I came home was to bring my other half home. That was my next dream. That's how I got back up from that diamond. And at that point, was I struggling? Yes, I was. Did I see that that was actually going to happen? No, I didn't. But was I willing to focus on it and say it out loud to myself every single day until I made it happen? Absolutely, I was. And that's what got me there. I kept in that vision every single day. What would it look like if he was home and I was home? What would we be able to do? What are some of the things we'd be able to do? We'd be able to go out to lunch anytime that we wanted to. We'd be able to go outside in the backyard and hang out. We'd be able to go for car rides. We'd be able to go hiking. We'd be able to go fishing all day long. We'd be able to, do all the things. We're from the woods. So if I talk about stuff like that, that's literally why. But, it was just a big vision of what our life would look like if I just went all in and I was able to bring him home full time. But I physically knew that the only way I could bring him home was if I paid off a ton more debt, and if I was able to pay all of our bills from my phone. I knew that that wasn't going to happen until I made that happen. And the only way for me to pay our bills was if we had 2 diamond accounts coming into our household consistently with no breaks in it. And so I took that year and I visualized it every single day. I got myself a little journal and I wrote down all of the adventures that we would have if we were home full time together. I was visualizing what the day would look like. I would literally write down in this journal exactly from the time that my eyes opened in the morning to the time that I went to bed, what that day would look like. And the more that I did that, I visualized my own life. I literally manifested it every single day. I thought about it. I consistently was thinking about it all throughout the day. I was speaking it out loud. I was talking about it on my social media. I was calling it out. Did I know if it was going to happen or not? No. Nope, I didn't. But the best way to stay consistent and the best way to hold myself accountable was to put it out there on social media so that people could see that I was fighting for something, and that right there was holding me to it. That was what was pulling me, because I didn't want people looking at me like, hey, that dream of bringing your man home? Well, you didn't make it, right? I didn't want them to say things like that. And so what I did was I put it out there on social media. I made sure I was telling my whole entire family. I told my man, I told everybody I could think of. And I just said, I'm just going to do it. I'm going to go all in. I'm going to make it happen. And I showed up every single day for it. So number 2 is vision. This is very, very great for your team also. If you are not putting the vision into your team, sharing with them every single day where they could be going, what they could be doing, what their next vision is, or helping them find their why, what are we doing, right? We've got to make sure that we are putting that vision into our team. So what I like to do is I'll send a message if I know I've got a girl on my team who has a really big goal and she's going to hit it, and she wants it so bad, and I know her why. I know exactly why she's doing it. I'm going to send her a quick voice message and I'm going to say, imagine, just hear me out for a second. Imagine you signed 2 loyal customers today and you nail down that big goal, and that allows you to be able to take your man out on a nice dinner date, right? Or you're being able to buy that new computer that you've been wanting to buy, or that allows you to be able to put gas in your car stress-free. You don't got to worry about that light bill this month, girlfriend. Your business is paying for it. So I put that vision in their head by sending them a quick little voice message explaining that to them. And if they're having a hard time finding their why, that is my job as a leader, to sit there with them and say, okay, how are we going to figure this out? I'm going to give them tips on finding their why. I'm going to ask them, every single day until they figure it out on what exactly they want, because they need that vision in front of them. So vision is everything. That's number 2. That's literally how I've pulled an entire team up with me. Number 3 is communication. Communication is key. You have to communicate before you get people started. You've got to communicate with them when you get them started, and you've got to communicate with them all the way up to the higher ranks with them. It's not like you get someone to executive or Ruby and then you let them go. You've got to communicate with them all the way along. So I'm very honest and I'm very upfront with my potential distributors and my loyal customers. I'm very honest and I'm very upfront with them. I tell them exactly how it is. I don't try to sugarcoat it. I am very simple with my wording. And so it's very easy to understand as I'm going along. Then when they come in, they are not catfished by me, because I'm honest before, I'm honest when they get started, and I'm honest all the way along the road. I'm myself before, I'm myself when I first get them started, and I'm myself the entire time. So the more you are authentically yourself and the more upfront you are with people, and the more you tell them the truth and you tell them how it is and how you work hard, you show up every single day. This is how simple it is. It's simple, not easy, right? What we do is simple, not easy. So the more that we share that with them, the more they're going to be willing to stick it out when things get hard, right? If we keep telling them it's easy, come on, it's easy, come on, it's easy, right? When things get hard, they're going to say, you lied to me. You told me that it was going to be easy. And that's going to make them walk away. So I learned this along the way. And the reason I'm going to tell you this, okay? I have literally enrolled over 750 distributors. And with those 750 distributors, at least half of them were enrolled within my first 2 years of starting this business. The reason why I enrolled so many in the first 2 years was because I was promoting the easy. I was getting people in and I was talking to them about it, and I wanted it so bad. But all of these people who had gotten started with me, I would say 9 out of 10 distributors would quit. And the reason why they would quit very early on was because they did not know how much hard work you actually had to put in. They did not know that it took them showing up every single day. They didn't know these things. And so it kind of flipped a switch about 2 years into my business. And I started realizing that I needed to start showing up as the person I want to attract. And I need to start telling them up front. And if people are not interested after I'm honest with them, then they were not meant to be on my team to begin with. So this is why I get them on video. This is why I talk with them. This is why I ask them questions before they get started. I make sure that they're the right fit for my team. If they say, oh, well, personal development isn't a thing, well, they're not a good fit for my team, because I feel like we are the fastest growing personal development team right now. It's absolutely crazy how fast we're going. When it comes down to it, I make sure that they are going to fit that criteria. Are they willing to show up every single day? Are they willing to do personal development? Are they willing to show up on Zoom calls just like this? Are they willing to, work with me every single day? Are they a quick learner? How do they learn best? Things like that, so that I know what my part is going to be on this end, or how it's going to go on my end, right? Very, very, communicative. Like I'm consistently communicating with my potential distributors, and then when I get them in. Communication is also good with the outside. And what I mean by that is people who are outside of your actual business, your husband, your friends, your family, things like this, right? And what I mean by that is communicating when you're working. There's going to be times where people are going to try to call you while you are working. And this leads me on to the next step. It's number 4. It's called setting boundaries. This is something that I had to learn when I first started this business because I was considered what they call a people pleaser. Anybody ever been in that category before? I was a people pleaser. And if you don't know what that means, this is what it means, okay? Meaning I used to bend over backwards for anybody. I used to do anything for anybody just to either avoid confrontation or so that they would like me. I would do anything for them. And so I gotta mute everybody. Sorry, guys. My bad. Okay, so I was a people pleaser. I was someone who literally did everything for anybody, and I didn't ever want to say no to anybody because I was afraid of judgment. I was afraid of what people thought of me. I was afraid of them rejecting me. That was like the worst fear ever. And so when I first started this business, naturally, I would fall back on when someone called me and said, hey, can you help me, haul this boat really quick? Yep, I'll be right there, even though I've got a $3,000 bonus that I'm going for. A lot of the times I'd be in the middle of going for a fast start bonus, and I'd be helping a couple of other people do the same exact thing. And my mom would want to call me and talk on the phone for hours and hours and hours about absolutely nothing. Most of the time she was wanting to talk about other people, right? And when it came down to it, I had to set boundaries around those things. And I had to say, I'm sorry, I can't talk right now, but I will call you back when I'm able to. And usually I'd call her back that night before I went to bed, or I would call her at dinner time or before dinner time or something like that when I was able to. Now, those boundaries are not for them, it's for you. It's so that you can get done the things that you need to get done to better your own life. These boundaries are usually set so that you are able to get the things that you want in the future and have more time with your family and friends, right? I think about this. If I never set those boundaries 2 years ago with my mom and with my friends and with my family, if I never set those boundaries, I would not be where I am right now. I wouldn't be able to go to my mom and say, hey, you want to go out to lunch today? I'll pay. I wouldn't have been able to afford it, 1. 2, I wouldn't have had the time because I would have been working 2 jobs. So I gave up what I wanted right then and there for what I wanted most. Right then and there, I wanted to call my mom on the phone and talk to her all day long. But I wanted to be able to go see her anytime and take her out and do the things that we wanted to do the most. Right then and there, I wanted to be able to watch Netflix with my man and just hang out all night long. But later on down the road, what I wanted most was to be able to spend unlimited time with him every single day because we're home full time. So I had to learn that boundary and learn how to give up the good for the great. I had to learn how to choose what I want most over what I wanted right then in that moment. And that right there was like fire for me. That's how I made it to diamond. That right there, that key tip was literally how I made it there. That was the thing that was really standing in my way from emerald to diamond. So super, super important to set boundaries in your life, to understand. And even with kids, I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I have a very, very attention needy 9-year-old. She wants mama's attention all the time, every single day. She loves coming in here, painting her nails. She wants to go do this. She wants to go to the Dollar Tree and go shop around. She wants to go to Walmart. She wants to, go for a ride with me. She just wants me to go play outside. She wants me to do this. She wants me to do that. But when it comes down to it, I know that summer's coming. And I know that if I were to go outside with her right now, or if I were to take her to the store every single day right now, then I know that when summer comes, my business is going to be hurting. And I'm not going to be able to do the things that I want to do with her, right? So I had to set boundaries around that. I had to start saying, when mom has done this, we get to do that. I'm not telling her no. I'm telling her, when I am done this, we will get to do that. And there are certain times where she just wants to talk or she just wants to do things. And I started setting those boundaries around it, where when my door is closed to my office, which not all of us have offices, right? Like I didn't have an office always. I used to set it up where it was whenever mom was looking at her phone, then it wasn't a good time, right? And so she started realizing that, okay, mom, when mom is working, she's working for me. It's so that we get to do these things. And we wouldn't be able to do these things if I continuously interrupt her, right? Now, does that mean that I'm on my phone 24/7? Absolutely not. We should not be on our phones, Facebook scrolling. We should not be on our phone going through TikToks. We should not be on our phone doing all the things and ignoring our kids. We should be on our phone when we're working, right? And that will help establish that boundary and help them understand that when you're on your phone, you're at work. Okay. So that was a big thing for me. Setting those boundaries up with myself, setting those boundaries up with my family, my friends, my kids, everything. Number 5 is the follow-up is the key. This is a really funny story. Okay. When I first started my business, I was going for Emerald and I was pushing and pushing and pushing. I was sending the messages out. I was adding people. I was posting on Facebook. I was updating my story. I was like in the game. And I went to my upline, someone that was on my upline at the time, and I said, I don't understand why this is not working for me. I don't understand why I'm not signing anybody. I don't get why, like, nobody's wanting to order. Nobody's wanting to buy from me. Nobody's wanting to get started. I don't get it. And she asked me, she said, well, are you doing your follow-ups? And I said, what are follow-ups? How crazy is that? And it was because I was never taught these things because I didn't have an upline at the time, right? This was just someone that I could go to like sporadically. She was not my teacher. She was not a mentor. She was not a leader of mine. It was more just she knew more than I did, right? And so she asked me, well, are you doing your follow-ups? And I said, what are those? And that day she told me what the follow-up was. And she told me, you've got to go and revisit those people. You've got to go and make sure that you are the first one to get back to them. You are the last one that they heard from so that when they are ready, they come to you and not someone else. So I started following up. And when I started following up, that's when my business started taking off because I had already had so many people that I had talked to. My potentials list was absolutely crazy, but I hadn't been following up with them. So they were getting on that list and they were sitting on that list. So it was almost like I was planting a seed. As a farmer, I was planting a seed, right? And I was planting that seed, but I wasn't watering it at all. So it was going dry. And it was just sitting there going dry, going stale, going dry, right? Until someone else was willing to come along and water that seed. And then they ended up getting my harvest instead of me. So I started actually following up the day that she showed me that. And that's how I went Emerald. And that's how I went Diamond. And that's how I went Diamond 2.0. And that's how I did all the things. The fortune is always in the follow-up. You've got to follow up with people. And I think about this on a more personal level. The girl that signed me up 6 years ago, almost 6 years ago, she followed up with me more than 50 times, okay? 50 times. And I just think about this. I was at a point in my life where I was just broken. We were getting into fights nonstop. I had resorted to drinking because I felt like my life was just falling apart and I was self-medicating. I was struggling with anxiety. I was struggling with switching medications for anxiety nonstop. I was seeing a counselor and nothing was working for me. Okay. I was literally at this point where I felt like I would be better off if I just disappeared out of my child's life because it was such chaos all around me and I didn't want her to be involved in that. This girl had the guts to follow up with me more than 50 times with the fear in her head of rejection. I can almost guarantee you she had that same exact fear. But she continued to follow up with me. And I thank God that she followed up with me one more time. And I said yes. Because if I didn't say yes, I would not have my house right now. One, we would have lost it years ago. I would not be in my daughter's life. Two, I would not be with my fiance still. We're going on 11 years now. I would not have my son, Bo, who's 3 years old. He came because of this bet that we had with each other, that if we decided to, or if we ended up making it to Diamond 2.0, then we would try for another baby. And we made it happen. And that's how he came about. If I wouldn't have gotten that follow-up message from that girl, then I wouldn't have all of these things. So I'm thankful that she did. Now imagine if the next person that you follow up with is your Chelsea, is the girl that needed this so desperately. This is how we take the worry about what they think on the other end out of the follow-up. And we start thinking about them, not ourselves. We got to stop thinking about our comfort zone, and we got to start thinking about how they feel and the things that they're going through and how desperately they need something like this. And this goes for loyal customers and distributors, right? So the fortunes in the follow-up, you want to make sure you're following up every single day. And then I want to share with you guys, that's my 5 tips. But I want to share with you guys some books that literally have changed everything for me. If you don't know this, my team is growing at a rapid pace. A lot of us are reading a book every single week. And we're doing audibles, we're reading books, all the things. And this is why my girls are just so strong, and they're getting their host post up. They are putting in the work. They're changing their life, not only financially, but mentally, emotionally, changing their family's life, their parenting style, literally everything right before us. And so here's some of the ones that I get my new girls started with. The first one is called The Dream Giver. I wish I had it in front of me, and I just realized that I didn't. I let someone borrow it. So The Dream Giver is by Bruce Wilkinson. And there's 2 different styles of it. There's one that's a blue book and then a red book. You can get it on Audible, and you can also get it as a written copy also. The second one is called The Mountain Is You. And this is by Brianna Weist or Weist. It's Wiest. These 2 books changed my entire life. And the reason why I say this is because The Dream Giver talks about your journey with your dream that you have been given on your heart. It starts out really, really as a simple read. It starts out similar to a children's book, and then it wraps into why you should keep going, why you should take quitting off the table, why you should never put your dream on the back burner for other people or for your circumstances, why you should keep pushing. So if you've never read that before, you absolutely need to put it on your list. I promise you, you will not regret it. The second one is called The Mountain Is You by Brianna Weist or Weist. I don't know how to pronounce it, and I feel bad butchering it, but this book is actually about all of the things that you go through in your life and all the hurdles that you go through in your life, and how you can switch them around and start thinking of them as a positive and not a negative. Certain things that I've been through in my life, I'm so grateful for. And most people would not be grateful for them. Most people would look at them like, oh man, I can't believe that you went through that, right? But I look at them like I'm thankful. And the reason why I look at it like that is because if it hadn't have happened, then I wouldn't be where I am right now. And I sure would not be where I'm going at all. So this book definitely shifts your perspective and how you look at different things. Highly recommend that one, 10 out of 10. Now, some of the authors that I absolutely love also, number 1 is a leadership author, which is John Maxwell. John Maxwell has one of the best series of leadership books out there. If you want to learn how to lead other people, and you want to learn how to have a really big team that you care about and that cares about you, and you want to have that team environment, highly, highly recommend John Maxwell books. And the second one is Jim Rohn. I just love him. I don't know what it is, but I love how he wrote, and I love his speeches, his seminars. If you ever get the chance to watch one of his seminars, and I don't say the chance, if you wanted to, you would, right? When it comes down to it, His seminars are just so good, and you can just go watch them on YouTube. They're all pre-recorded, obviously. And so with those, his voice just goes up and down, but he's got such great tips, and he uses bullet points just like John Maxwell does. So such a good book. So, and then another book that I want to share with you guys, that's just kind of a side note that I just read. It's The Power of One More, and it's by Ed Milet. I believe it was Brittany and I were talking about it on a Zoom call one morning. But such a good book. I'm obsessed with it. I read it and I'm honestly thinking about reading it again because it was so good. So with that being said, that concludes that part of our Zoom. And I wanted to go through these comments really quick before I leave you guys with one more thing. Maybe you can handle all the kids once longer. You girly, your words are fire. Thanks for being so transparent, real, and raw. Thank you so much, Brittany. And then you said, I said the same thing. And then the orders started coming in slowly. I'm still bad with follow-ups. Join in January, still learning. It's so crazy how we don't even realize that the follow-up is actually important. And you know what's crazy too is that that's what most people fear when they get started, is following up with people. Most people are terrified of what other people are going to say about them when they get started in this business. So the first thing, this is why I say that it's so important to do personal development in general, because that gets you out of that mindset. Once you get out of that mindset, you free yourself of that worry, and that allows you to focus in on what's truly important, and the bonuses and the raising your residual income and everything like that. It will change your money mindset, your parenting style, the way that you are in your marriage, the way that you are to yourself, the way that you manage your time and your money and all the things. It will change every single aspect of your life. So even if this business was something that you kept going with or you didn't keep going with, keep doing personal development. It's going to change everything for you. And I guarantee you it's going to bring you back to this business every single time, because this business is truly life-changing. It's changed my life, and I've seen it change hundreds and hundreds of others. So you want to get intentional with your goals. You want to get intentional with what you want out of this business and what it's going to do for you. When I first started this business, this was one of the last tips I want to share with you guys. I actually wrote down exactly what I wanted out of it to a T. I wrote down the paycheck that I wanted. So if you're going for Ruby, obviously you're going to write down that $500. Write down the $500, and then what is that $500 going to pay for? If you don't have it written down, it's just a dream. When you write it down, it becomes a goal. So you've got to make sure you write it down. Write down to a T, how much are you going to pay for this? How much are you going to pay for that? If you know that you want to pay your bills from home, you want to make sure that you've got all of your bills written down on a piece of paper, and you've got a deadline for when you want to make that happen. If you don't write it down, it's just a dream, and it's as good as never happening for you. So you've got to make sure you write those things down, get specific with what you want, and then figure out exactly how many customers and distributors you need in order to make that happen. How many bonuses do you need to make that happen? If you want more info on how to do this, go watch the last Zoom call that was on my YouTube channel. My YouTube channel is literally Chelsea Noella. If you go to YouTube, and you can watch any of the YouTube videos that I have, and they're all public, so you can watch all of them. I had a Zoom series for a new distributor specifically on my last Zoom series, and it talked a lot about how to get specific on your goals and how to dig into what you truly want in this business and how to get self-disciplined with it, how to get that visual, how to be a visionary, right? So I hope that this helps you guys. You Can Do Hard Things is another really good one. Sarah Mantle just wrote that. I just finished that the other day. That's by Sherry Lynn Ocala. Just for anybody who's newer in this business, it's a really good book for that specifically. It's called You Can Do Hard Things. Sarah just put it in the group chat, but it's called You Can Do Hard Things by Sherry Lynn Ocala. And it is an amazing book. It's a newer one too. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and hop off here. I appreciate all of you guys getting on here. Just know that every single week we're doing one of these. We do have some leaders that are going to be on this that are going to be on different teams too. So I'm really, really excited to hear from different perspectives. We've got people from all different ranks. We have someone who is a ruby, an emerald, diamond, double diamond, triple diamond, ambassador, and so on and so forth. So I'm excited to give this to you guys. So right here next week, 9:30 p.m. EST. I love you guys so much, and I hope you have a great night.